Hello, class. How are you? Today is January 11th, 2022, and today was supposed to be our first class for Christianity in the Caribbean. I'm in my office and I'm developing some mild symptoms, so I've already sent you a notice canceling class. I'm going to go get tested and send you a video instead. So in this video, I'm going to introduce the syllabus and talk about the overall uh, plan of study for this course, RLG 5937, Christianity in the Caribbean. This is a religious studies class, a graduate class, and we will be specifically focusing on Christianity in the Caribbean because there's already an excellent course called Religion in the Caribbean, but taught by Professor Albert Waku, that deals with some of the Afro diasporan religions in the Caribbean. So I decided in consultation with him to limit this course to Christianity only. And I could have named it, and perhaps I should have named it Slavery, Race, and Christianity in the Caribbean, because it's not just about Christianity in the Caribbean, but it's also inevitably intertwined with the history of slavery, the Atlantic slave trade, sugar plantation, plantation, sugar production and export, which is also inextricably linked to uh, African slavery and the slave trade. It also has to do with race because there were debates over a 4-century period about who was a Christian, who could be a Christian. Did Christianity equate to whiteness or Europeanness, or could people of African descent or people of color, mixed blood people, could they also be Christian? And could a Christian be enslaved? These are all debates that were going on from the early 1500s all the way up through the end of slavery in Cuba in around 1868, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to dive in now and talk about our syllabus. I'm really looking forward to doing this class with you. Hopefully the pandemic will pass soon and we can get on with our lives. So this is called Christianity in the Caribbean, RLG 5937. The course objectives are to evaluate, contrast, analyze the religious cultures of the Caribbean. Of course, we'll be talking about Christian religious cultures, but there's a wide diversity between Catholic Christianity in the Caribbean, and primarily the Spanish islands, uh, Anglican or British, the Church of England in the English-speaking islands, the Dutch Reformed Church in the Dutch-speaking islands, and in France, in the French islands, it was a mixture of primarily Catholic, but also Huguenot. So we will be comparing these religious cultures, and specifically how they related to the issue of race and slavery. We will also contrast and analyze a wide variety of Christian denominations, their behavior and their attitudes towards race and slavery in the Caribbean. There was a vast difference between Catholic attitudes towards slaves and the Protestant Anglican, predominantly Anglican views towards slaves. And we will discuss that. That we will also do a lot of writing in this course. So hopefully this course will give you practice in organizing your thoughts, in doing some critical thinking and reviewing of these books that we'll be reading. And I'll be giving you feedback. I hope you have learned to proofread your writing. If not, MS Word can help you with the little red squiggly lines, or you can download Grammarly and use that. And our fourth objective would be to, I think I've already said this, compare and contrast Catholic, Protestant, and Pentecostal religious expressions in the Caribbean. Pentecostal comes in towards the end of the course, around weeks 13, 14, and 15. We'll be talking about Afro-Pentecostalism in the 20th century. We will be meeting in person. This is a classroom course in Rider 120. However, today I'm going to be communicating with you via this video instead of in person till I'm sure that I've gotten a test and I'm sure I'm okay. We have quite a few books that we'll be looking at. This is a graduate course, so you're expected to do a lot more reading than an undergraduate. There is no single textbook of Christianity in the Caribbean, although there is an excellent book by Edmonds and Gonzalez called Caribbean Religious History, published in New York by the New York University Press. We'll be using that. I have a PDF that you can use, or you can order it through Kindle and read it through Kindle if you'd like. So we have that book by Edmonds and Gonzalez, which is one of our main books, Bartolome De Las Casas, only about 40 pages long, a short introduction to the destruction of the Indies. Gives us an introduction to the early experience of Native Americans at the hands of Spanish Catholics. And hopefully we'll talk about that in person next week. Also, Kristen Block's Ordinary Lives in the Early Caribbean. It's an excellent historical book trying to give a voice to the voiceless in history, which are the slaves. Usually history is written by the victors, which usually means white men. And so you don't hear much in history in the voice of women or of slaves or other marginalized peoples. But she did a very creative job of using court documents and also Inquisition records in order to give voice to the African slaves in Spanish territories in the early Caribbean. Then we'll be looking at Catherine Gerbner, Christian Slavery, Conversion and Race in the Protestant Atlantic World, another excellent book. I don't have a PDF of this one. I might have one. Let me check. But I encourage you to read it. Read the entire book. It's an excellent book. Then we have a few others that are more specific in their application. Stephen Glazier does a anthropological study of the spiritual Baptists of Trinidad. We'll be talking about that. Peter Marina talks about chasing religion in the Caribbean. It's a sociological study of Afro-Pentecostalism at the end of the 20th century and the early 21st. And I will go over some of the others later because they come in the second half of our course. I do want to mention John Sensbach's Rebecca's Revival. I hope you will all get a copy of that and read it. It's an excellent historical biography about a mulatto woman named Rebecca living in St. Thomas who was converted to Moravianism and became a female apostle to people of color in the Caribbean. The course will be organized around weekly modules. Each week has a specific reading assignment. The first 6 or 7 weeks, I think I have PDFs that you can use free of all the books. So you won't have to start looking at ordering books on Amazon or finding them in the library until after the spring break. So that gives you time to find those inexpensively, hopefully. We will be meeting at 2 o'clock on Tuesdays for 2.5 hours roughly in Ryder Business Building 120. The grade distribution is like this. I will be taking attendance for each. We have a class once a week. For each class period, I will give 7 points if you show up on time and stay through the duration of the class, unless you contact me, of course, with a legitimate reason why you can't be there. And if you come to class, you get your 7 points. But if you participate in the discussion, ask questions, make comments, that's another 3 points. So that's 10 points each week for participation and attendance, which comes out to 150 points if you have perfect attendance and you participate, which is 50 points more than you need for a A in this category. This is 10% of your final grade. So there's some flexibility there. You can miss a few classes and it won't kill your grade. We will have 10 reading reviews. I have actually more books than that. I think I have nearly 14, 15 books, but you only need to review 10 of them for a grade and discuss them. By a review, I mean about a 400-word, 3 or 4 paragraph, 400-word discussion, giving a short summary, then your own personal evaluation, criticisms, reactions to the book. Maybe what are the strengths of the book? What are the weaknesses? What discipline does the book approach this topic from? This is an interdisciplinary course, so it's important to learn to distinguish between sociology, history, literature, anthropology. There's a variety of ways that we can approach this topic, and we will be using a variety of disciplines. So you can put all those things into your reading reviews. They'll be once a week. They're due on Friday night at midnight. But I know that there's always things that come up for everyone, and I'm sympathetic with that. So rather than continually go back and reopen these forums for people who have legitimate excuses, I leave them open until Monday. So Friday, they're open all week long. Friday night is the deadline at midnight, but you can still post it on Saturday. I'll take away 1 point from the grade, which is not much. You can post it on Sunday, you lose 2 points, and Monday it closes. So you have some flexibility there. There will be 10 of those reading reviews. They're worth 40 points a piece, and the collectivity, the 10 together, equal 40% of the course. Please proofread your submissions. Also, at some point, and if you look in Canvas and go to the calendar, you'll see the calendar due dates there. That's the best way to see when things are due. Instead of emailing me and say, when is this due, please go first to Canvas and click on the calendar and look for it, and you should find it there with the date that it's due. There will be a topic selection. You'll need to choose a research topic by the end of this month. It's due on February 1st. I happen to remember that one. You need to submit about 300 words telling me what your research topic is, why you're choosing that topic, and how you hope to approach it, and you need to frame it into a research question. So if you're going to research, I can't think of a good example right now. Let's say, why did Anglicans, you want to research why Anglicans were reluctant to let their slaves know about Christianity. That's your topic. In, let's say, 1700 in Barbados, why were English planters who were Anglicans, why did they forbid anyone to teach their slaves about Christianity, whereas the Spanish in Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Hispaniola were actively baptizing their slaves and instructing them in Christianity? Why that difference? So then you change that into a research question. Why were the English reluctant to teach their slaves about Christianity? And that's the research question that introduces your topic. I'll give you more on that as we get closer to February 1st. That's worth 100 points, 10% of your grade. It's important that you get a topic early in the semester so you have plenty of time to do the research and develop a paper. Then, I think it's February 22nd, somewhere in the third week of February, you'll be submitting an annotated bibliography. A bibliography would be a list of 8 or 10 of your sources that you're going to use to develop your research. Annotated means that you put a short paragraph under each citation, summarizing what it's about, how is it useful, how do you plan to use it in your research. And again, I'll talk more about that as we get closer. That's worth 100 points and 10% of your final grade in the third week of February. Then in early March, you will write your first paragraph and develop an outline of your paper to submit to me. Many professors, a little secret is that if someone is grading your paper, they're going to be greatly influenced by the first paragraph. And sometimes busy adjunct professors may just grade you based on your first paragraph. I tried that once. I went through and graded a group set of papers based on my impression of the first paragraph. Then I went back and graded them by reading the whole paper, and the first paragraph was a surprisingly accurate indication of the final grade. So you want to really polish your first paragraph and make it as impressive as possible, as clear and concise as possible. So in March, you will be taking the first step, actually the third step on your final project by writing the first paragraph and an outline and submitting that to me. Then in early April, you'll be submitting the first draft of your research report, which will be an annotated bibliography. And I'm sorry, not an annotated bibliography. It'll be a literature review. The final product will be a literature review, which is not exactly the same as a research paper. All of those together add up to 1,000 points, 30 assignments counting the weekly attendance, and that's 100% of your final grade. So you get a chance to watch this, and then next week you can ask questions, or you can send me a message through Canvas if you have questions, and I'll try to answer them. So this week I was going to do an introduction, give an overview of the Caribbean. I'm going to do that in my next video. You should read Edmonds and Gonzalez, chapter 1 and 2. That's and there's a PDF in Canvas in week module 1. Each one of the modules is named by week. So module 1 is week 1. Module 2 is week 2. And so go to Canvas. I haven't made the syllabus available yet because I'm still checking it for errors and revising it. I'll do that later today. So go to Canvas, read the syllabus, and then go to Module 1, which is titled Week 1, Introduction, Overview of the Caribbean. And when you click on it, you'll find a PDF that you can download of Edmonds and Gonzalez. And there's another PDF of Bartolome De Las Casas, a famous Dominican priest who lived during this time of the conquest of Native Americans in the American hemisphere, the Western Hemisphere. He wrote a book called A Brief Account of the Destruction of the Indies. And he was a man who was horrified by the rapid destruction of the Amerindian race, or the Native Americans, and he was doing everything in his power to try to persuade the kings, Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, to extend protection to the Native Americans. So he wrote this book, A Brief Account of the Destruction of the Indies, which gives an early view of Catholic Christian treatment of Native Americans, and it's not a pretty picture. And there's, if you took Religion in Latin America with me and read Justo Gonzalez's book, Christianity in Latin America, you know that he presents the idea of two faces of Christianity that are demonstrated throughout the history of Latin America. One face is of exploitation and abuse, hypocrisy, and the other face is of compassion and justice and the attempts to protect the native peoples from exploitation. And so you have to be prepared for some paradoxes as you study this history, and realize it's not all black or white, but there's a lot of nuance in between. So next week we'll pick it up. We'll move everything back a week because of the canceling. So that'll give you a little more time to get up to speed with the reading. And then the following week, week 2, which in this case may be week 3, we'll be talking about the arrival of the Spanish. We'll take a deeper dive into Bartolome De Las Casas, and begin to move on into examining the early colonial Catholicism and its relationship to slavery. So that is our syllabus. I hope you will have a fruitful week. I hope you stay healthy, and feel free to communicate with me, and let me know if you have any questions. All right, thank you. Take care.